All right, shalom, shalom, everybody. This is my Saturday night news video. My name is Pastor and Evangelist Daniel Lee. I'm a pastor of a Zoom Room church. We meet 7 nights a week for prayer, praise and worship, and Bible study. And I'm an evangelist. I have been to 124 universities all across the nation preaching the gospel of Jesus Christ. In fact, what I'm doing right now is I'm on my winter break between the fall and spring semesters. I am making videos of news events, current news events, as they relate to biblical prophecy to try to drum up donations to help me as I'm preparing for my spring 2024 campus preaching tour. So if you want to contribute, my donation links are right below the video. I have 4 different ways via the internet you can send donations. I have a Cash App link, I have a GoFundMe link, I have a PayPal link, and I have a Zelle that's connected to my firebrand4@gmail.com email address. Those are 4 different ways you can send donations via the internet. Or if you don't want to use the internet, you prefer to send money through snail mail, please remember that I have a new physical mailing address. It is in Houston. That physical address is right below the video. And please don't send any more to the P.O. Box up in New Jersey. I'm transitioning down to a new mailing address down in Houston. All right, so let's get right into the news because there's quite a bit to cover. We're going to revisit again this drone story, which, by the way, this hasn't been just going on for a couple of days. This story has been in the news for a month, which is a pretty long shelf life for a story like this. But Hal Turner had an interesting piece that he published today. It's called Drone Mystery Solved, U.S. Military. Now, this is what I had speculated last week, that this basically was our own military doing this. And I proved that by showing how the military kept saying and government officials kept saying on the East Coast, oh, we have no clue what these drones are. And yet on the West Coast, they had literally arrested a Chinese national for flying his own private drone over I think it was a naval air base on the West Coast. So clearly the government, government officials are lying when they say, oh, we have no idea what these are. But here's what Hal Turner had to say. He said, the big mystery about drones being seen all over New Jersey seems to have been solved. Photos make clear at least some of the drones are Petro Dynamics XP4 trans-wing drones being developed for the U.S. Navy. Others are nuclear detection drones. The XP4 is being readied for work, picking up and dropping off packages to a moving ship, even in high seas and high winds. As its name implies, it's a trans-wing design, meaning it can switch from an aircraft-type wing flight to a quadcopter-type design for vertical takeoff and landings. Officially, it has a 1-hour flight time, but that could have easily been upgraded. It's about 13 feet wide by 6 feet long, closely matching the descriptions proved by so many witnesses. Very, very many of the sightings and reports about these drones show them traveling almost directly above the New Jersey coastline. And wouldn't you know it, right where the most reports are coming from and perfectly along the flight path is the Joint Base McGuire-Dix Lakehurst, home of the Naval Air Warfare Center Aircraft Division. This also explains why drones are appearing every night in much of the same area and sticking around so long. They have a base they can go to swap batteries all night. Not all the drones being seen are close in description to the XP4. It seems that other types of drones are also being tested, specifically running nighttime missions between the NAWCAD Lakehurst and a U.S. Navy ship offshore. One of the types of drones also being flown over New Jersey and New York are American-made HPGE nuclear detector drones. They can detect gamma rays from miles away. Gamma rays are a dangerous form of radiation that can penetrate the bodies of living organisms and harm those organisms to varying degrees, depending upon the intensity of the gamma rays and the duration of exposure. These HPGE drones were originally designed to inspect nuclear facilities, but that's not what these drones are for. These drones are for sweeping a large area in a grid pattern to find a potential dirty bomb or potential other nuclear device, potentially being smuggled in to detonate in a terrorist attack. Many witnesses have commented that the drones they see appear to be sweeping over an area in a grid pattern as if they're looking for something specific. The reason they are operating in a grid pattern is not only to practice looking for something, but also because the drones are programmed to operate in a mesh network operating in the 200 gigahertz communication band. 200 gigahertz is very directional and requires bulky horn antennas to function. It turns out the United States Department of Defense bought, ready for this, hundreds of thousands of these drones. They can be programmed to swarm a city. Back in 2009 to 2010, the Department of Defense needed a response to the threat of dirty bombs being smuggled in by ISIS to a U.S. port city. The Department of Defense has been stocking up on these drones since about 2010. The drones look weird because the nuclear detection gear requires a large and heavy cryo cooler to be mounted beneath it for the gamma radiation detectors. As mentioned above, the giant horn antennas to communicate on wave frequencies that cannot be jammed. Here's the dicey part. These drones are being used right now inside Ukraine. That is the first time these devices have been deployed in a combat zone. Sources are now telling me what the purpose of these drone flights are. First, the Navy is testing out how the public will react. Second, they're testing their ability to sweep a densely populated large area in a grid pattern without communication disruption or loss of drone control. They are very reluctant to even send the drones into Manhattan because of the very real potential of losing communication with the drone amidst the towering skyscrapers and enormous electromagnetic interference from all the electronic gizmos and gadgets operating that area. So why all the hush-hush? They are in fact U.S. government drones and they don't want to talk about it. It seems some folks in the U.S. government have forgotten that they work for us, the people of the United States, whose hard work, ingenuity, and heavy tax burden make their entire existence possible. One other source told me the government is in fact looking for a dirty bomb that perpetrators are allegedly trying to sneak into New York City to detonate as a part of a terrorist attack. He mentions Christmas and New Year's Eve, Times Square, as possible targets. I have not been able to corroborate that one source's claim. Okay, so again, this is all confirming what I had mentioned last week. I think it was a video I made either Thursday or Wednesday. But basically, I had said that I speculated that this not only was the government, but that they were kind of setting the stage for some kind of dirty bomb or nuclear bomb to be detonated, because that's what these drones do, right? They hunt for these devices. And there was all this chatter about, oh, it might be Iran. You know, we had a senator out there saying, oh, it might be Iran. And then I showed how J.D. Vance was talking about how we need to go after Iran. This was just days after the so-called assassination attempt against Trump. I talked about how all the feds were saying that there was an Iranian plot to try to assassinate Trump. And all these things, these drumbeats of war to try to stage this idea of, oh, yeah, we have these drones out there desperately looking for a nuclear device that Iran planted somewhere. Yeah, no, I think this is our own government trying to stage a false flag. This was posted by Laura Loomer, who said, just in, massive drones were spotted flying over Foley, Alabama last night. This is actually not very far from where I'm staying here in my dad's home. This is a photo in Foley, Alabama. This is about 30 miles west of Pensacola, Florida. And there's been reports not only over Foley, Alabama, but I've also seen reports on the internet of people saying it's flying over Spokane, Washington, and Minnesota, and all across the United States, these reports of these drones. And then this is the other article that Hal Turner was referring to, Ukraine striking Russia with massive drone strikes. Ukraine has launched what was reported to be over 200 drones in widespread attacks against Russia. Of course, these drones were supplied to Ukraine by none other than, yeah, you guessed it, the United States. Russia air defenses are engaging the attacking drones. So this is really, really bizarre how all of this drone talk just keeps on going and going and going. And why is Elon Musk not saying a word? You can go to his Twitter, you can go to his presence on social media. He's not saying anything about this. Why is that? This is an article from a long time ago. Elon Musk has his way. Trump will replace soldiers with AI. Here's why it would backfire spectacularly. So Elon Musk has always been talking about this. In fact, here's a clip from him from a couple of years ago. Take a listen.
Especially, the future wars are really going to be, and we're seeing a taste of that in Ukraine, very much drone wars. Mm-hmm. So if your drones are better than their drones, then you win, basically, is what will happen.
So Elon Musk, at least about a year or two ago when that was taken, he was clearly talking about drones. Why is he not saying anything now? I think it's obvious that Trump and Elon Musk know exactly what's going on because they're part of this whole cabal that's behind launching these drones all across the United States and that are setting the stage for this so-called war with Iran. I reported in Thursday's video how J.D. Vance, back on July 18, 2024, so this was just 5 days after this so-called assassination attempt on Trump, July 13th, where he literally says, a lot of people recognize that we need to do something with Iran, but not these weak little bombing runs. If you're going to punch the Iranians, you punch them hard. Okay, so this is, again, Trump's vice president-elect who was saying these things just a few days after this assassination plot against Trump, or so-called assassination plot. But then I found this just a couple of days ago. This was a story on December 12th. Trump says of possible war with Iran, anything can happen, and vows to leverage U.S. support for Ukraine for peace. The president-elect made the remarks in an interview with Time magazine. President-elect Donald Trump is not ruling out the possibility of a war against Iran during his second term, saying in a recent interview that anything can happen. Really? So this